Hi, welcome to this lecture. We will continue to learn more functions. We have been learning trigonometric functions, so we will learn about cos function. So y is equal to cos x, so another trigonometric function. So just like sine, cos also can be written as some combinations of x power some powers of x. So here cos x is 1 minus x square divided by 2 plus x power 4 divided by 24 minus x power 6 divided by 720 dot 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 dot. So this is again an infinite series. You have many more terms. I have only written 4 terms here. So if you take an x value and substitute in this infinite series, you will get cos x, or you can use the calculator and plot it, or use any software and plot it. You can see that when x is 0, this term will be 0, this term will be 0, this term will be 0, all further terms which will be x powers of x will be 0. So when x is 0, cos of x is just 1. So you can see that when x is 0, cos x is 1, and as x increases, this will decrease, then further increase. So this is also an oscillating function. It will oscillate again between plus 1 and minus 1 for various values of x. So the difference with sin x equal to 0 was 0. Here, when x equal to 0, cos x is 1. Now, as we said for sin x or cos x, the x value, so this is sin x or cos x. X is typically an angle. Need not be angle, it could be any dimensionless quantity. Again, can be used as x. So here you can see again that 1 minus x square divided by 2. So x again will not have any dimension. So angle is typically, for example, angle is arc by radius. So this is ratio of 2 lengths. So it will be a dimensionless quantity. So x typically is written as some radian. So let us say some number radian. So as we said for sine, it could be pi by 4 radian, pi by 2 radian, pi radian, 2 pi radian, and so on and so forth. So various values for various values of x, you can get the corresponding cos x or sin x values. So as we know, you can have y sine 3.14 dot dot dot. So this is the approximate value of pi, and one can give this in a calculator and you will get the corresponding value. Similarly, y is equal to cos 3.14, which is same as sine pi cos pi. So this is in radian. Similarly, you can have pi by 2, which is y is equal to sine 3.14 approximately divided by 2. Similarly, cos or 2 pi. So whatever be the value of the argument here, so this is often called an argument, you will get the corresponding y value. So you could y is equal to cos 6.28. It's approximately 2 pi. So you have to remember these are numbers. This is also written in degrees. So pi radian, as we know, is 180 degree. So this is, I want all of you to remember. Of course you would know this, but just for so pi radian is 180 degree. So you can convert, which would mean that 1 radian is 180 by pi degree, or 1 degree is pi by 180 radian. Pi divided by 1 degree is pi divided by 180 radian. So one can convert appropriately and write these things in either in radian or in degree. So this is something we should remember when we plot trigonometric functions. And as we said, this sine and cos are some oscillating periodic functions. We can use this appropriately to plot temperature over seasons, biological clock, cell cycle. These are the starting points. It doesn't mean that temperature can be written as sin x or cos x, which may not be possible, but this is the starting point. Once we have a function which is oscillating, we can manipulate this function to get this, to plot these quantities. That is the training that we will learn, how to use these functions to plot the experimental data that we have, which would be this. But you can see some correspondence immediately that this is oscillating. Similarly, these functions are also oscillating. So we can use these functions to represent some of these quantities. Now we will have some other functions which has a very different shape. For example, very often we would plot something called free energy in thermodynamics. So if you plot free energy as a function of reaction coordinate of various states, we can have two states A and B and all that. So we can have some free energy versus x reaction coordinate. So if you have an equation which is of the form px power 4 minus qx square minus mx plus c, where p, q, m and c are some numbers, by putting appropriate number I can get this curve. I have plotted this curve by substituting appropriate numbers for p, q, m and c. If you substitute some numbers, you will get this kind of a curve. So you can plot this kind of curve again as a combination of powers of x. So that's what I wanted to convey here. Another thing I just want you to familiarize with, when we saw all this complicated curves like 1 plus x by x divided by some number plus x square divided by some number, immediately it would have come to your mind, why not I simply add 1 plus x square plus x cube. So if I just simply add 1 plus x square plus x cube plus x power 4 plus x power 5 plus infinite series like this, one would get 1 divided by 1 minus x. So if this function, if you expand, it turns out that you will get 1 plus x power 4 plus so on and so forth. You should realize that 1 is nothing but x power 0. So in all these cases, I hope you have realized that 1 is x power 0. So if you have x power 0 plus x power 1 plus x power 2 plus x power 3 plus dot 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 infinite series like this is 1 by 1 minus x. And if we plot it, what we get here is this curve, which again looks like exponentially increasing curve. It increases very fast. Much for small change in x, it increases rapidly. And e power x also increases rapidly. So e power x is 1 plus x square, this is divided by 2, x cube here divided by 6. So you are dividing by something here, but here is just 1 plus x square plus x cube plus so on and so forth. So these two curves look similar in some sense. Of course, there are various differences. At beyond x equal to 1, this cannot be, it will have, here you can see that at x equal to 1 is already infinity. So there are some differences which I want you to think about. Now, similarly, if you just take 1 by 1 plus x and compare with e power minus x we saw is 1 minus x plus x square by 2 minus x cube by 6 plus dot dot dot. If I don't divide by these numbers, if I just take 1 minus x plus x square minus x cube plus x power 4 minus x power 5 and so on and so forth, if I do this, I will get 1 by 1 plus x. And if I plot 1 by 1 plus x, it is a decreasing function like this. e power minus x is also a decreasing function which look somewhat similar. So this expansion looks similar. Similarly, these corresponding functions also, if you plot, they will look similar. So I want you to get familiarized with various functions here. Another function that we saw 1 by 1 plus x just now. If we plot x by 1 plus x, that is if I just multiply everywhere with x. So I multiply this with x, it will be x minus x square plus x cube minus x power 4 plus dot dot dot. The behavior changes and you would get a function which is like this, which is a saturating function. So it's x by 1 plus x. As x goes very large, so you can, I want you to familiarize again with this function x by 1 plus x, and we saw that this function which looks like this. So this is y, so this is y and this is x. When x is 0, y is 0 because 0 divided by 1 plus 0 is 0 divided by 1, which is 0. So this will be 0 for 0 and it will increase. When x is very large, x goes to infinity, x is very large. When x is, this will become a constant. That's why it's saturating here. So if you just put, for example, x is equal to, let us say, 1000. Then y is 1000 divided by 1001. This is approximately 1.9999 something. Now if I just put x is 10,000, it is 10,000 divided by 10,001. So again that is also 1. That's why this is saturating. As x goes, this ratio will tend to 1. So that's what the curve that we have. And I am saying this because this curve is, you might be very familiar with this curve. In biology, a part of a growth curve might look like this, or even enzyme kinetics curve might look like this. You might have various curve which looks like this, which is a function, which is again a combination of x, x square, x cube, x power 4, etc. So that's what I wanted to say, that you might have seen such curves to represent enzyme kinetics, growth curve and all that. You might remember Michaelis-Menten equation, and some such function will come there which might have this kind of shape, which will have this kind of shape. So I want you to we got familiar with various functions. Now another function I want you to get familiarized is y is equal to root x. So what is it? Y is equal to root x. So if I just take x is equal to 10, y is root 10, which is some number above 3, right? Root 9 is 3 and root 16 is 4. So it's some number between 3 and 4. So I want you to familiar with this function y is equal to root x. If we plot y is equal to root x, it would look like this. So this is x, this is square root of x. Square root of x can also be written as x power half. So this is y is equal to x power half. This would look like this. So as x becomes larger and larger, this changes like this. This is a very specific way of changing. I want you to compare y is equal to x and y is equal to x power half. So y equal to x is a line which is a green here. Y is equal to root x or x power half is the red curve. At 0 they are the same. When x is 1, root x and x are same. Below 1, root x is larger than x. Above 1, x is larger than root x. So I want you to think about this. and know that the root x will have this shape. Whenever you remember root x, remember this kind of a shape which is increasing and slowly, it's not really saturating per se, it's increasing but very slower, it increases in a particular way which is slower than x. If you compare x square and root x, you will see that x square increases like this, root x has this particular behavior. So, some examples of functions that decrease with x, for example, height of a falling object of course will decrease with time. Concentration of nutrient in bacterial culture, as the bacteria grows the nutrient concentration will decrease. Free energy versus temperature, the free energy will decrease if these things are a constant. As T increases, delta G will decrease because of this minus sign. So there are some examples where the function that would decrease, and you can think of many other examples. So I want you to think about various examples where this will be, a function will be decreasing with x. Now we plotted x, I also want you to think about y is equal to minus x. So this is y is equal to x which will increase, y is equal to minus x will decrease. So this is y is equal to x and y is equal to minus x. Similarly, I want you to think about y is equal to minus x and y is equal to minus 2x, compare those. So we had done y is equal to x and y is equal to 2x. You can compare similarly y is equal to minus x and y is equal to minus 2x. If you compare these two, you can see again that this is decreasing function. You can also think in general y is equal to 4 minus 2x, which could be some example like this. You can, this is general, y is equal to mx with some c plus c with some m having a minus sign here, it's minus 2. So you can then, you can find some analogy between this equation and this equation where delta h is 4 and x is t and delta s is 2 if you wish. So you can think of, you can find some analogy between, so we can find some correspondence between these two equations. And if you plot minus 2x plus 4, so in other words 4 minus 2x in the y-axis is x, you will again get a decreasing function. Another thing from whatever we learned so far, if we compare y is equal to x square and y is equal to minus x square, these are the two things that you can compare, and y is equal to x square is an increasing function, y is equal to minus x square is a decreasing function. Again, I want you to plot both sides of this. So I urge you to plot this on 4 quadrants and how it looks. I want you to look at how this would appear if you plot on either sides. Now, another function we learned e power x. I want you to also think about 2 power x, because at the end of the day e is just a number. So e, as you would know, e is a irrational number which is 2.7 some number like this. So instead of plotting y is equal to e power x, you can plot y is equal to 2 power x. And this is relevant for bacterial growth, as you would see in a minute. And the curve would look like this. So if you plot 2 power x, the curve would look somewhat similar to e power x. It would be increasing with x, and this has a lot of relevance for bacterial growth. How is it relevant? Let us see this. So think about E. coli growth, for example. You start with one cell. In about 20 minutes, it will divide and become 2 cells. This would divide and this would give you 2 cells separate. So these 2 cells would become 4 cells. These 4 cells in next generation would become 8 cells. So if we look at t equal to 0 at 0th generation, you have 2 power 0 1 cell. In the first generation you have 2 power 1, which is 2 cells. In the second generation, which is again after 20 minutes, so you have 2 power 2 cells, which is 4. In the third generation you have 2 power 3, 8 cells. So in general, in nth generation you will have 2 power n cells. So what you would get in a bacterial growth is that after n generation you will have 2 power n cells, where n is generation number. Now if you assume each generation is on an average 20 minutes, each generation is 20 minutes, so the time after n generation, will be n times 20 minutes approximately. On an average, the time will be 20 n minutes. So what would this imply? This would imply that 2 power n, I can write n as t by 20 from this. So if I just take 20 on the other side, I can write n as t by 20. If t is in minutes, this is in minutes, this is for E. coli. And what one would get is that 2 power n can be written as 2 power t by 20. What would this imply is that I can write 2 power kt, this can be written as the number of bacteria at a time t, can be written as 2 power kt, where k is 1 by 20 minutes. So k is like a rate, which is the dimension of time inverse. Here it is minute inverse, or it could be expressed as minute inverse or second inverse. So the number of bacteria at time t can be written as 2 power kt, where k is the rate of cell division. For E. coli typically is like 1 by 20 minutes, and when t is 60 minutes, it's like 2 power 3 is 8. Another example for this would be DNA in a PCR cycle. So you will have number of DNA molecules during PCR reaction will obey a similar equation. N of t is 2 power kt. So this is another example where again you will have divided this in 2. Now you can also write this as e power something, and we will learn about this. So I urge you to figure out how to write this as e power something, how to write 2 power kt as exponential some number is something that I want you to learn. Let me try to do that quickly here. So here we had n is 2 power kt. You can write this is e power log 2 is nothing but 2. So e power log 2, so let me write e power log 2 ln 2 is nothing but 2. So since this is 2 power kt can be written as e power ln 2 is 2. So 2 power kt can be written as e power ln 2 power kt, which is nothing but e power ln 2 kt. So one can write 2 power kt, this n as e power ln 2 kt. So one can write this as an exponential function also, and I want you to learn this. So if you compare 2 power x and e power x, they have similar shape, but e power x, since e being a slightly larger number, e power x will be above 2 power x. Similarly, we can have 10 power x. So I will first quickly go through a few functions. So you can take 10 power x and plot it. So So this is 10 power x and e power x. Since 10 is larger than e, this will go above this. Now you can also think of, given a y value, how to get an x value. If y is 100 and y is 10 power x, the corresponding x value can be found out, and that function is log. So when you say log x, what does it mean? If y is 100 and you take a 10 power x line and look at the corresponding x value, this will be 2. So I start from 100 and draw a line to the 10 power x curve and count down, this will be 2. So this is nothing but log to the 10 100. We know that log to the 10 100. So what am I saying? I am saying that if we have a curve which is y is 10 power x and this is x and this is 100, this will be 2. What does it imply? What does it mean? It means is that 2. So log to the base 10, 100 is 2. So I start from 100 and I go to this curve, I take this curve 10 power x and I draw a line and come back, whatever the value of the x axis will be log of 100. So similarly log of 10 is 1. Similarly, if I, instead of this 10 power x, I take the curve e power x and I take a y value and find the corresponding x value, then that will be log to the base e. So I want all of you to familiarize with the log function, and if you plot the log function, this will look like this. So this is the log function. This is again where you have various examples, Beer-Lambert law, the various examples where you will have log function. So we also learn few other functions. So I want to summarize all the functions that we learned so far. So we learned cos x, we learned free energy and various other things, and we learned 1 by 1 plus x, 1 by 1 minus x, x by 1 plus x and all that, and finally we learned 2 power x, 10 power x, log x, ln x, and so on and so forth. So I want you to familiarize with these functions, plot various functions and think about how this function will behave for various values of x, and familiarize yourself with all kinds of functions, because these functions are the words in this language of mathematics. Only if you have a very good vocabulary you can speak a language. Similarly, if you want to use the language of mathematics, we should be knowing all kinds of functions. So I want you to familiarize with all kinds of functions. You may not understand this, but just plot it. Use a software, use a calculator and plot that function and see how it changes with x. And that will tell you a lot, and we will see as we go ahead how we can use these functions to describe various biological phenomena. With this, we will stop today's class and continue in the next class.